Subjects are probably one of the most important items that will be in your contract of purchase and sale, or CPS. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. What are subjects? Subjects are essentially clauses or conditions that you as the buyer or the seller want met in order for the contract to be valid and for the sale to close. So essentially, you as the buyer, you're telling the seller, if I buy your house, I want the following blah, 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 blah condition to be met, otherwise I'm not buying it, and the seller can come back and negotiate on that. So subjects is an item of negotiations. In a contract, the typical items of negotiations would be price, the dates, and the subjects and conditions. Of course, everything is up for negotiation, but those are the typical ones that you'll see in a contract of purchase and sale negotiation process. Now, as a buyer, you can submit a subject-free offer, meaning you're just going to take the property as it's presented and you're not asking for the owner to be responsible for anything. This was extremely common in early 2022 when the real estate market was super hot. It was a seller's market and buyers were just trying to secure a home. This was a way for them to compete in a hot market. They would submit subject-free offers to the sellers and the sale would proceed. However, now that the market is softer, we're seeing subjects come back on contracts, and that is a good thing because it helps protect everyone. At minimum, the subjects that you should be putting on that contract would be subject to financing and subject to inspection. Subject to financing is where you as the buyer want to secure a good loan for the property, a good mortgage. So you want the bank to approve the property, approve the amount that's required, and you want to be happy with the terms, meaning what the interest rates will be and what the conditions will be of that mortgage. If you're satisfied with that by a specific date, that would be a subject in your contract. The second very important subject that I hope to see in all contracts is subject to inspection. And subject to inspection is when you hire a professional to go and review the property to make sure there's no unknown surprises. When the inspector goes in, they'll review the property, they'll review the foundation, the wiring, the roof, and all the items that are visible to the eye. There's a lot of things they can't behind the walls, but they'll be able to catch a lot of the big items. That way you can be more assured when you proceed with that property. If there's big items that are a bit overwhelming, you can walk away from the contract at this point. And if there's items that you want the owners to repair, you can also put that into the contract. In addition, this is a time where you can also go back and negotiate on price if the cost of repairs is starting to get a little bit high. So you can go back to negotiating on price based on that inspection. Now, in reality, your contract of purchase and sale is going to be filled with subjects and conditions. Those are the two most common that you want in there. The rest of the subjects and conditions are going to depend on where you live and your own specific situation. One thing to remember is that each time you negotiate on a contract, so that would be price, dates, subjects and conditions, or anything else, you are passing the contract to the seller to sign back on that. So it means that the seller can actually walk away from the deal. Likewise, if the seller wants to negotiate something back, the same follows. Your subjects are typically going to have a date by which those subjects need to be met. You need to remove the subject condition, and that needs to be done by midnight. You can request for an extension. The seller may or may not accept it, but you can request for an extension if more time is needed. But make sure, whatever the date is, it's signed by midnight, otherwise the contract will be void. Using subjects as a negotiating tool can be quite powerful. As I mentioned, in early 2022, the subject-free offers meant that a lot of buyers were able to secure a property over the competition. You need to remember that typically the more subjects you put in a contract of purchase and sale, the higher the price typically has to go if you're in somewhat of a competitive market like we are in Vancouver. So subject-free offers, typically you can offer slightly less. And if you've got a lot of subjects in there, then you got to make up for that with price. But that is, again, volatile and depends on what's going on in the market conditions. It's something to keep in mind, though, especially if you're in a more competitive climate, because subjects can really spook sellers. It could take 2, 3, 4 weeks before subjects are removed, and they're missing out on other potential buyers. So subjects will often affect the price that you negotiate on. Subjects are basically the terms or clauses that need to be met in order for you as the buyer to proceed with purchasing a property. So you can negotiate on price, on dates, on subjects and conditions. Those are the most typical 3, but really everything is up for negotiations. Please forward on to anyone who may find this useful and follow me for more bite-sized content.